This is the area of interest in the desert west of Calexico in Imperial County, California. On the Mexican side is Mexicali, a large city and the capital of the Mexican state of Baja. This gap is about 15 miles wide. There is a vehicle barrier there on the border, but it is not designed to stop pedestrians from walking across. Mexican Highway 2D runs parallel to the border and is about 4 miles to the south. U.S. Highway 98 runs parallel about 2 miles to the north. There are a number of dirt roads that lead to the border on both sides. Typically, those crossing illegally on foot could walk to Highway 98. Someone would meet them there and pick them up if they can avoid the border patrol. We're going to start this tour in the small city of Calexico behind the outlet shopping center there. In 2018, a 30-foot high bollard fence was built, which now has concertina wire on top. On the other side of the fence is Mexicali, a city of 1 million people. The problem before was that it was easy to climb over the old landing plate fence and mix with the shoppers, making it difficult for the illegals to be identified and caught. Over the years, there has been a lot of legal and illegal immigration in Calexico. It's almost like a suburb of Mexicali. Many residents were hostile to the new fence and complained that it was ugly. For that reason, the Army was ordered to paint the part next to the shopping center black to make it more aesthetically pleasing. After 2 miles, it transitions into a much shorter bollard-style fence. Concertina wire was added to these fences by the Army in 2019. About where this transition occurs, the All-American Canal parallels this fence for over 7 miles. This is a fast-running canal with steep sides in places. Many illegal crossers have drowned in this canal. For that reason, buoy lines have been added in several places due to pressure from leftist activists. Apparently, few people use or have been saved by these lines because the smugglers tell the illegal crossers that they can easily swim across anywhere. In the background is Mount Signal, a local landmark in Mexico. As I was taking photos along the canal, a helicopter pilot spotted me and hovered above for a couple of minutes. A Border Patrol agent came and explained that sometimes they get open borders activists who take video to show where the agents are, intending to help the smugglers. This is where the shorter bollard fence turns into a vehicle barrier just about 10 miles west of the port of entry in Calexico. Here the agricultural fields on both sides of the border stop and the open desert begins. A facility for the State Water Commission of Baja is in this location on the other side of the border. A pipeline that carries water from the Colorado to Tijuana and beyond starts here. On another day, I drove through the port of entry into Mexico and around to the other side of the fence at this location. This is the paved road that runs right up to within a few feet of the border fence. This road turns to the left and goes west parallel to the border fence around Mount Signal. This is apparently a maintenance road for the water pipeline. It turns into dirt on the other side of the mountain but continues parallel to the border. The sign on the right states in Spanish, State Government Road, no entry. I assume smugglers would probably ignore that though. A Border Patrol agent showed up about as soon as I got out of my car. You can see that anyone can just step over the fence here. This is a place where smugglers can bring their buses on a paved road and unload crowds of fake refugees to surrender. This is back on the American side of the border. There are various kinds of vehicle barriers along this gap. Sometimes there's no barrier where a vehicle might have a problem crossing. On the hill is a pipeline pumping station and the maintenance road runs just below it. Here there's just a guardrail. There are a number of these surveillance towers around the area. My understanding is that they work okay, but the equipment is dated and it would help to have the equipment upgraded. It's not that difficult to cut through a fence like this with a cutting torch and open up a hole big enough that they can drive right through with a load of illegals or drugs. Just a panorama of the landscape. The Border Patrol agents give you the impression that everything is under control. Of course, they're not going to tell outsiders they have a problem. Looks to me, though, like they have issues in this area. These are a couple of shots that show the vehicle tracks on the Mexican side of the barrier. The pipeline maintenance road is maybe a couple hundred yards away, and if you have a four-wheel drive, you can drive right up to the border. This is a panorama of the vehicle barrier and Signal Mountain from the west side. This vehicle barrier ends at the hill in front of us about 25 miles from the port of entry in Calexico to the west. By the way, this is the El Centro Customs and Border Protection Sector. This is how the barrier ends. On the other side of this hill is the Jacumba Wilderness. It's pretty isolated back there, and the temperature was up to 120 degrees that day. I didn't try to go back there because I could get stuck and have a problem. This photo shows another pipeline pumping station on the Mexican side, and you can see the service road in front of it a couple hundred yards away. So anywhere along this barrier, you have vehicle access via a fairly decent dirt road. This is a water station for the illegal crossers put in the desert by one of our subversive open borders groups, the so-called Border Angels, headed by Enrique Morones. There are many of these water stations along Highway 98 and along nearby dirt roads in the desert in this area. These water jugs do not seem to be much used by the illegals. I think Morones uses them mainly for propaganda purposes, to claim he's saving lives, and as a fundraising gimmick. If the illegals did use them frequently, the Border Patrol would probably monitor the stations and catch those that use them. Although I didn't think it was safe to drive my car back in the Jacumba Wilderness, we can go there by satellite. This map shows the U.S.-Mexico border and where the vehicle barrier stops at the hill we saw earlier. Most of this area is pretty rugged mountains and more impassable than any fence would be. I have drawn a couple lines in green, though, where it looks like someone could hike through or drive an off-road vehicle across the border. I can't see any signs of vehicle tracks on the path on the right, but on the left we can see something when we zoom in. This is a close-up of the path on the left seen in the last slide. These satellite images could be 1 or 2 years old, but there doesn't appear to be any barrier at all on the border here. We see circular vehicle tracks and vehicle tracks that I trace back to connect to roads on both the American and Mexican sides of the border. So it appears someone could drive right across the border here. I'm guessing the circular tracks right on the border may be a way to mark exactly where the border is. This isn't a regular road and there may not be any signs. Whether it would be practical to smuggle people or drugs this way, I don't know. It depends on how closely the Border Patrol monitors this area. There are only 1 or 2 ways out, and they may have that under surveillance. Anyway, this concludes our tour of the big border gap in Imperial County. Thanks for watching.